Hey there, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's your first time here. I am so happy to have you. Today's video is all about this beautiful blouse, the Love Notions Rhapsody. I was influenced. I'm just gonna be honest. I mostly sew commercial patterns. I've done very few free indie patterns, mostly for my daughter, but I was totally influenced. A lot of people love this blouse and talk about it. The biggest one that convinced me, the person that put me over the edge, was Izzy from Dizzy Quilts and Sews. She did a video probably a couple months ago now, showing all of her Rhapsody blouses. She has quite a beautiful collection. And she also went into detail about what she likes about the Rhapsody. So I'm not going to go into everything that sold me on getting the shirt. I will link her video above and you can go check it out. If this video doesn't convince you, go check hers out because it will. Yeah, she put me over the edge. I kept an eye out for a while looking for a sale because Love Notions does $5 feature Fridays. Every Friday they have a pattern that's on sale for $5. And I was waiting for that to happen. That did, for the Rhapsody. That didn't happen, but they recently had a 40% off sale, and then a bunch of influencers, content creators out there work with Love Notions and have codes. So I was able to get an extra 10% off code, and I paid $6 and something cents for the pattern after tax and all that jazz. So I got it on sale for about half the price. The regular price is $12.50, full price. 10% codes are pretty much always out there, so you can at least get 10% off if you really want it right this moment. Yep, so I bought it on sale after I was influenced. And I'm going to go through just some of the basic stats about the pattern first, and then I'll move into kind of my experience sewing it. So like I said, it is $12.50 full price on their website. It is PDF only, no hard copy pattern, which is normally why I shy away from indie patterns. Anyway, I'm not going to go into it. There's a whole thing. I've ranted about it before. I think everyone kind of understands the one annoying thing about PDF patterns is printing them out and sticking them together or sending them somewhere to get printed and getting them back, yada, yada. That's not specific to this pattern, but it is PDF only. It is made for woven fabrics of a lightweight / drapey nature, which this one definitely is. I think it was a perfect choice for this blouse. There are nine sleeve options. What? And a dress. So if you're thinking about this in terms of a commercial pattern and kind of like the views they would offer, this is like getting a pattern with 10 views basically, because I mean, maybe even more than that, because sometimes some of the commercial patterns will have like a short dress and a long dress, and those are two different views technically. So technically you have like 20 views in this if you want to do all of the sleeve and shirt / dress combination. So you are getting so much value in this pattern. The other thing I really do like about PDF patterns, a big plus for them in my book, is the size ranges. So this is extra small through 5X, which is a really big size range. Let me go ahead and, I forgot to write it down, but I wanted to look up what that equates to in inches. So you are getting, let's go off high bust. The extra small is a 31-inch high bust, and the 5X is a 55-inch high bust. And then for hips, that's a 35.5-inch all the way up to 59.5-inch. So you are getting the whole range. The whole range. You don't have to buy separate packets. There's no limitations because of what they're having to print. You get the whole range, which is really nice because we change shape, we change size over time, and also now I can use this pattern for anyone in my life that I want to make this blouse for. I have friends and family that are smaller than me and bigger than me, and now I can use this pattern for any of them. So if one of them goes, oh my God, I really like that blouse, I'll be like, oh my God, yes, I made it. And I can make you one too if I like you enough. So I think that is a really, really big value. So anyway, I don't want to keep going down the road of PDF versus commercial because there's pluses and minuses for both, but I think that's a really great value, a really great size range that they offer. The other thing that this pattern has, I think most Love Notions patterns have this, but do not quote me on that because I didn't double check, but they have pattern pieces for full bust options. So if you need a full bust adjustment, you're not having to do it, it's already done. So that is a ton of value right there, because then you're not spending valuable sewing time having to alter a pattern for you. It's there, it's done. You can just print those pages out and use them. So that is really, really cool. It does say the skill level is intermediate, and I think I disagree a little. I think depending on your fabric choice, first of all, being a woven, I think is a little easier to work with, period, than a knit garment, but also there's no facings, there's no lining, there's no zippers being put in. I would say advanced beginner, probably, in my opinion. What am I basing that off of? Nothing really, except that I consider myself an advanced beginner, and this was easy. So yeah, there's no crazy skills involved. It does have French seams, but it walks you through it. I guess this is a natural segue into my experience with it. I made a size large. I did go ahead and add 1 inch at the bust, actually. So one of the things the instructions walk you through, which I hear this is very common with a lot of, I won't say very common, I've heard that this is one of the benefits of a lot of indie pattern companies, is they walk you through more. So commercial patterns usually have like a little blip about like how to lengthen and shorten stuff, but this very thoroughly walked me through what to do if I needed it longer or shorter. So it is drafted for 5'5". It gives you that information, which I really appreciate. It is drafted for someone that is 5'5". And then it super clearly says, for every inch you are above or below that, add or subtract 1/2 inch. And I think they go into some more caveats about whether it ends up being more than 3 inches or something, but yeah, 1/2 inch. So I am almost 5'7", so I went ahead and added 1 inch. It also does include information about like how to figure out where to add that, because everyone's body is obviously proportioned a little differently. As I keep showing with my hands, we're all proportioned a little differently. So I grabbed the back. Let me grab the front. Oh, something I forgot to mention. Trimless pages. So if you really, really hate the whole cutting and taping together and stuff, you don't have to do any cutting. That part's not involved. Trimless pages, so that is nice. So you hold it up, and then you can see where I added the inch. I ended up adding it at the bust, because when I held the pattern piece up, the apex was too high, which is pretty common for me. My breasts are just like a hair lower than any pattern drafts for. So I went ahead and held it up, figured that all out. Let me hold it right with these pieces, yeah. And added it there, following the instructions. It was super easy, very straightforward, and yeah. So I added it to the front and the back, obviously, so that they would be even. But if your brain is out to lunch, or if you've never done that before, it does remind you like, hey, add it to the back too, because you need it to be even. So all of the prep was very straightforward, very easy. Like I said, I made it in a size large. I did the short or 3/4 length bishop sleeve, which I really like how it turned out. And I made it in this, I think it was a crinkle. It's definitely polyester, a crinkle. I got it at Hobby Lobby in the spring of this year. They probably still have it. That just has a little white flowers on a green background. And like I said, I think it was a really great choice for it. The only downside is it can be a little staticky, so when I pull it over my head, sometimes I get the whole like Einstein effect, but that's nothing to do with the pattern. That's my choice in fabric. Going into the instructions, I'm obviously not going to walk you through all of it or anything. This is not a sew along or anything like that, but I will say the first thing that kind of annoyed me was, okay, annoyed is a strong word. The first thing that I raised my eyebrow at was they use 2 different seam allowances, and that is for a good reason. It's because they have designed it so that you can French seam the sides and then the arm. So this is all French seamed. which I really like because I love French seams. I like that they made the seam allowance account for that. So that is half an inch for these, and then everything else is 3/8 of an inch. Mildly annoying that there's 2 different seam allowances, but they do make it really easy in the instructions. They bold what seam allowance you should use. So it'll say like, sew these pieces together, wrong sides together in the case of a French seam first, with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, no, 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then trim it down to 1/8 and turn. Anyway, it walks you through it very thoroughly for every time you do it. It doesn't ever skip to just being like, and do the French seam like we told you earlier. So if it is your first time doing French seams, or if you haven't done it in a while and you want to refamiliarize, or if you just like following instructions very thoroughly, it's there. You don't have to scroll back up, find it again, and redo it. It's right there again, which is nice. And then anytime it gives you a seam allowance, it does have you, it's in bold. So they remind you frequently. Still a little annoying, like, can you just draft it slightly large? I don't know what I want them to do to change it. I would like a more consistent seam allowance just for my sake, but really it wasn't that big of a deal. I'm making it sound like a bigger deal than it was. So I did really like that. And then it told you when to remove the basting stitches for pretty much everything. I went back and looked, and it really doesn't tell you to remove these basting stitches from the gathering here at the shoulder, which is a beautiful detail, by the way. It doesn't tell you to remove these basting stitches from gathering it, and they go inside the yoke ultimately, so you don't really have to, but I like to remove basting stitches just because then it's like less threads to come loose and that I have to find later, although they'd be enclosed in the yoke. It's not a huge deal, but it did tell you when to remove basting stitches, which is nice. A lot of commercial patterns either totally don't, or they kind of inconsistently will. I think more so they just don't tell you. So generally when I'm sewing and I use a basting stitch for something, at some point I'm just like, oh, I don't need that anymore, and I take it out. Also not a huge deal to do it that way, but it's nice to be told, like, you're done with that. You don't need it anymore. You can take it out, instead of leaving like all of your basting stitches into the end just in case. So that is really nice. There are a ton of links throughout the instructions, and since it's on your computer or your phone, it's really easy to click on it if you need a visual for something. I'm a super visual person. I'm so glad we have YouTube now to show us how to do things. It's because sometimes the drawings or the pictures just are not quite robust enough, and there are some things that it's just really hard to show in a drawing. So it is really nice that they have so many links. I used the one for making continuous bias binding. I've done it before, but with the whole like you cut and you flip and you blah, I like to just, it's one of those things. I just look it up every time to make sure I'm doing it correctly. So I used the link for that they had in there, and it worked out super well. It took me right to the website and I could just look at it. I was never confused. It was nice. I was never like, what do you want from me? Because sometimes you look at the drawing or you read what they're saying and you're just like, I don't know what you want from me. No moments like that at all whatsoever. Very straightforward, very easy to follow. One thing I didn't love is, like I said, it is French seamed on the sides, but the arm sides are not. And it would have been really nice if they had given an option or told you how to French seam the arm side, because you can. It's totally doable. I've done it on other garments, and in the future when I make this again, because I will totally be making it again, I'm going to go ahead and French seam the arm side also, just so that it's all neatly done. I don't have a serger as part of it, so that's one of the reasons I like to French seam, and I just really like how nice it makes the inside look for me when I'm pulling it over my head. I enjoy a French seam. So I wish that they had just French seamed the whole thing, but I understand why not. Because it is definitely harder to French seam an arm side than the side of a shirt. So that's just something I'll do differently next time with it. The other thing, I don't think I have anything I'll change next time. Like I said, I added the inch. I don't think it was totally necessary. I will include pictures or video of me wearing it so you can see the total length. I like the length it turned out. I don't think it was totally necessary. I think if it were an inch shorter, it still would have been a good length for me and on me. But obviously this is the length they wanted it to fit. Oh, the other thing that was not included in the instructions is it does have a curved hem, but they don't have you do the basting stitch trick or way of doing it. If you're not familiar, a lot of patterns, or at least a lot of patterns with curved hems that I've done, they have you put a basting stitch along the entire bottom hem, and then it lets you manipulate the fabric really easily to get it to like, I don't know why I'm making a sound effect, but to curve just a little bit or a lot where you need to, a little more easily. But I don't think it was necessary for this. Just pressing it up a half an inch was totally fine. There's not an aggressive enough curve that I really think it needed it. Maybe a little bit around the hips, it would have been nice to manipulate it with a basting stitch some, but totally, it didn't irritate me. It wasn't difficult to do necessarily. But in the future when I make it, I might go ahead and throw that basting stitch in there just to help myself out a little bit. It did call for 1 5/8 yards of fabric for the option I chose. It has a really great chart in there of like if you're doing the blouse or the dress in which sleeves, so that you know how much you need, obviously. And I would say that's accurate. I would say that is how much I used. The thing that it didn't include though in that is that if you are making the coordinating bias tape to go around the V and then also around the neckline and make the ties, you need, it says, 1/2 yard of coordinating fabric. But it doesn't tell you that until down in the instructions, at least not that I saw. It wasn't until you hit the point in the instructions where it's like, okay, now you need to make your bias tape, that it tells you how much you need. So when you're buying fabric or looking through your stash to get fabric for this, just keep that in mind, that if you do want to do the coordinating one, you're going to need about 1/2 yard to make enough. I made enough. I didn't end up using nearly as much, so you could get away with a little less than that. Honestly, I think I cut even less than 1/2 yard. So I would say 1/4 yard probably would be a little more accurate for the bias tape, but it says you need 1/2 yard of coordinating fabric to then make 2 yards of bias tape is what it wants you to do. Obviously, if you're making a version that doesn't have the ties on it, if you're just ending the bias tape here, you need a little less. One thing I will probably try in the future is a little like having the bias tape go across and just having this be like a, I don't know, like keyhole, kind of a keyhole thing. I don't know. But just having it be closed up there and having the V, I think that would be a really nice touch to it. So there are a lot of ways to play around with this. A lot of people, I think, have hacked it and made it more and done a lot of things to it. So there is a ton of potential in this pattern, and it's already a great pattern. Like I said, I will definitely be making it again. I really like the bishop sleeves. I'll try to convince myself to try something different. They have a flutter sleeve option, which is another sleeve style I really enjoy. So I'll probably try that one with the dress next summer or something. Yeah, it is a great pattern. I'm so glad I was influenced to buy it and make it. And I will be making many more in the coming years, both for myself and others. I think that about does it. I believe that's everything I wanted to talk about. I'm sure as soon as I stop recording, I will remember more things I wanted to add. But for now, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have made the Rhapsody, let me know how you found it. I'm guessing you really like it, but if you have a differing opinion, I would love to know why maybe you didn't like it. Or if you've been thinking about making it, like I said, I recommend getting it. It's cute, it's easy. I think it was pretty easy. And it is a great addition to any wardrobe, especially if I worked. I would have like a million of these. I understand why Izzy has so many of them. For an office, this would be a great option to make in a lot of different ways. Anyway, that does it for this video. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you consider hitting that like button. And if you're not subscribed, I would love it if you subscribed and hung around for more of my videos. I do a Friday Sews video pretty much every Friday. And I have some other videos coming out that have either already come out or coming out in the near future about patterns I love but am not going to buy. And if that interests you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you know when I release those videos. Thank you so much and have a great day.